Today on Independent Wrestling Profiles, we're talking with Daniel Wall. The introduction to wrestling. As a fan, when did you first discover the industry?
Okay, so for me, it started around junior high because all through like elementary, I wasn't into wrestling or anything like that. It wasn't in my household. None of my family members were like fans or anything like that. But my mom actually started doing like babysitting as like a side hustle. And one of the guys became my best friend, and he absolutely loved wrestling. Posters all over the wall, video games, all these other things. And all I had was like a old stolen 64 Nintendo 64 game. I think it was WCW versus NWO, and that was my that was all my knowledge of wrestling was that one game. So he introduced me. We watched an episode of SmackDown, and as soon as that episode was over, I was like, oh, I'm hooked. Okay, now so SmackDown, Raw, pay-per-views. Okay, I can do this.
Okay, so it was introduced to you as like a social item.
Yeah.
And then as soon as you were introduced to it, you hit the ground running. You were a fan from day one at that point.
Yeah, I started picking up games. I started picking up DVDs. I started picking up anything I could, really. Me and him had a trampoline between the two of us. So we immediately started wrestling on the trampoline, you know?
I can see where that was going.
Yeah. No, basically just as soon as I realized what it was, like I already liked boxing. I already liked MMA. Wasn't really a big thing back then, but like I was interested in combat sports. And then when I saw the theater and like the pageantry of it all, I knew wrestling was where it was at, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. It was going to be an inevitable question. I guess now's the best time to ask. Who were some of the performers that kind of really appealed to you at that time, that got you more invested, that made you want to tune in every week, and maybe down the road ended up being some sort of like inspiration or motivation for you?
The Undertaker was a big one. He was one of the big guys at that time. It was like 2004, 2005. And as soon as I saw, I heard the gong and he started doing the entrances with the costume, I was just like, oh, okay, wrestling is more than just, big strong guy walk down aisle, a couple fireworks, and they start throwing hands. That guy's a zombie. Like, let's go. This is crazy. No, it added like this magic to the world that I really enjoyed. Another one was like Batista. As much as I really liked the Undertaker and how like there's a magic to that guy, Batista just had a way about him, like big strong dude. The way he presented himself, the way he threw people around, I was just like, oh, he's not one to be messing with either, though.
No.
So I just, there's a lot of guys that really caught my eye back then, but those two were probably the top two.
During this time of fandom, as you're progressing through it, did you have an opportunity to go to any sort of live event, whether that be a WWE house show or even the independent scene, if it was introduced to you at that young of an age?
It was a couple years after being introduced to WWE, probably closer to high school, before I actually started going to independent shows.
Okay.
Around here at the time, it was UCW. There was another one back then, but they kind of fizzled out back then, unfortunately. And then there was a couple house shows that we were also able to make it to, but not a lot of shows make it their way to Halifax for WWE. So unfortunately, we were only able to catch like maybe 1-2 back in the day.
Okay, so I'm curious, was there anything about the live experience that immediately struck you as different from watching it on television, or even anything that was kind of a different feeling between the independent and the kind of house show that you picked up on as you were going?
So I was, for TV, everything felt very overly scripted, I guess, right? Like you have the way the show went was very TV, right? You have your commercial breaks at the exact time that you need the commercial breaks. suddenly, commercial break happens and all they're doing is holds and stuff like that. And then when they get back to, he's still holding on to that one hold. It's like, oh, okay, I see what you guys did there. But for the independent scene, it was just go, go, go. Like as soon as you go in and you sit down, there were some already like wrestlers out in the audience talking to people. As soon as you sat down, it was ring the bell. Let's get the guys out here. Couple of matches, and then the intermission. And during the intermission, more guys came out. Like you get to see, it was more personal, right? You got to see all the guys. You got to see all the people that they brought in. Like I got to meet Jim Duggan one time. Got to meet RVD, Bret Hart. Like you got to meet those guys, but you also got to meet the local guys. You got to meet JP Sims. You got to meet the Maritime Menace. People like that, and just like you got to meet the characters. It was more than just a TV show. You got to be personal with these guys, right?
Yeah. I think the big example is when you see a performer like RVD at a WWE house show, the accessibility versus when you then see him at an independent show is night and day.
Absolutely.
Where, yes, you can walk up and shake his hand in an independent show. In WWE, you might never see him past a barricade, right? So that's amazing.
Yeah. The big one for me was seeing Jim Duggan in person, because I never realized how big he was, right? Like how massive that man is. And then I went over to shake his hand. I was like, oh my God, this guy's a giant. But on TV, I was like, I'd never been able to tell how big Jim Duggan is. It's just a guy with the 2x4. But as soon as he's in front of you, they're like, oh my, you're a massive dude.
Yeah, well, when you're standing next to other massive dudes, it doesn't stand out as much.
Right?
When was it during this entire period of time that you started to kind of toy with the idea in the back of your mind that maybe this is a world that you'd like to get involved in?
Probably the start of high school. Me and my friend, who we were doing the trampoline wrestling and stuff like that, we were always just messing around. And then eventually it was, oh, but we could probably do this. And then maybe we start going to more local shows and seeing if we can help out or if anybody has a school or anything like that. So as soon as I realized, oh, this is like, people are doing this locally. I can do this. It was set in stone with me, right? I immediately went to my parents. I was like, hey, probably not something you want to hear. I'm going to be a professional wrestler.
It's probably not an uncommon thing for parents to hear, though. You're like, yeah, okay, sure, right?
Yeah.
Like, everybody has that dream. Not everybody pursues it. But...
Right. And my parents were pretty against it at first. But then after a while, they were like, well, if you seek out schooling and trades and other job prospects than just wrestling, sure, we'll drive you to. We'll help you out best we can. And so far, they've been to most of my shows. So, like, they're very supportive now. But back in the day, they were very hesitant.
So was it an immediate thing that you started to pursue it? Or was it just like, okay, we talked about it. I'm going to do this one day. And then it wasn't until some point down the road where you were like, okay, now's the moment?
No, it was almost right away. I want to say it took maybe a year before I was able to join a school at the time. This was about 13, 14 years ago. But at the time, I was still too young to be performing in ring, so I mostly stuck with refereeing.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's a good start to get your foot in the door.
Right.
So where did you train?
Back in the day, I was in a school with the UCW crowd, which was a guy named Chuck Martin and a younger guy who was just starting in the business named Dylan Sharp. I don't think Dylan Sharp is still around, but I know Chuck Martin is still running UCW sometimes. And I was training alongside a couple guys who did actually like make it through doing their thing. A guy named Greaser, also known as Joey. I can't remember his last name. Awesome guy. Still friends with him today. Still message him every now and then. He's also big into music and stuff like that. But I mostly stuck with refereeing and had a bit of a falling out with the crowd back in the day.
Okay.
So I just stuck with refereeing for other independent shows as well. Because we have quite a lot of different shows in the Maritimes, especially in Halifax. We have I want to say 7 promotions around here.
Okay.
And so back in the day, I was doing refereeing for UCW, TCW, a couple other places. And I was just kind of getting my name out there. And after a while, TCW kind of stopped. We had a falling out with UCW. So I kind of just walked away from wrestling for 6-ish, 7-ish years. And I just kind of walked away for a long time until randomly I was helping out with a theater promotion in Parsboro. And just so happens that Benoit Gravel was also doing the lighting for said show. And have you ever heard about Kaizen? And I was like, what's Kaizen? And he was like, well, there's this guy who came back from Ontario and he's opening up a school. He has running shows. And his first class starts in like a month and a half. I've already signed up. If you're a big wrestling fan, you should probably sign up too. I immediately messaged Covey later that day, and then I really kind of started my wrestling career after that. And I've been wrestling for about 5 years now.
Okay, so you started training again at Kaizen after that long delay or long departure? Okay,
Yeah.
and how was it getting back into it after 6-7 years? It's almost like riding a bike. Did you kind of get your sea legs right away? Or
it took a second to get your bumps back in, you know. The body was very sore. My cardio wasn't very good because I took a long time from everything. But then once I started getting my legs under me, like going from one lock to another lock or going for a slam or anything like that, I was just like, this is familiar and I know how to do this. I've been here before. So I already had a bit of the movement down. It was trying to get more of the psychology down.
Okay, so previously you had been focused on refereeing and now you're doing it full out of age as a wrestler.
Yeah.
Can you take me through kind of just that path that you took to when you first started getting into the ring as a regular competitor?
So it was me and a different buddy of mine, Justin. Me and Justin started off as the first two graduates from Kaizen Academy. And for the most part, I've never had like very serious nerves going into sports before. Like I've been on football teams, I've been on hockey teams, have like been in big tournaments, gold medal matches, all these other things. And like, I know what I'm doing when it came to like goaltending when I was in hockey or being a wide receiver in football. I know my spot, I know my position, and I know what I'm doing. And then when it came to my first match in wrestling, I've never felt butterflies like that before in my life. It was crazy. I was so nervous. And my first match was against Chip Chambers, Remy Petit, and St. Guerrero. Miss Guerrero. And it was this big scramble match, and like there were so many moving parts, and I was always worried that I was going to like miss my spots. And then after the match, it flowed so well. Everything, like, we hit all the things that we were supposed to hit. I really got a grasp of like the flow of a match and how you make a match beforehand. And it was honestly the best experience I could have had as a first match.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I was thrilled. It was a really, and as soon as the match was over, I was like, oh, I'm doing this for life. This is it. And a couple matches after that, I was kind of nervous, but never like that first match. And now when I get to the ring, I'm just like, nope, this is another day at the office.
There is one thing I'm very curious about, and that would be how you felt, and if you can recall, with the crowd reaction towards you. Because you had mentioned you had played sports before, football, hockey, but you're part of a team, and it's not so much all eyes on the individual, as even with a four-way match, right? There is a little bit more of a focus on the individual personalities. How did you feel about the fan reaction? How did it feel versus being a referee to get an audience watching you wrestle?
It was like, when I talk about the nerves, that was the thing that I was probably most worried about, because I was like, I'm coming in as this fresh like baby face, because like I am the baby of this match. I'm the one with the least amount of experience. So coming in and like all eyes on me, and I had friends and family there who were obviously like cheering for me. It was weird because I wasn't expecting like a big reaction, and when I got the big reactions during the match, I was like, oh, okay, right on. I like the interactions I was able to have with people, but the more I did babyface stuff, more that I was the good guy of those matches, the more I realized I wanted to be a bad guy. I was like, getting cheered is fun, but it's so much more fun to get people to hate you a little bit, you know?
Oh, okay.
Because I have 3 siblings, so like, and I'm the middle kid, so like poking fun at them and like getting under their skin is just, you know, my daily routine at this point, right? With 3 sisters, you just kind of go in, you bust open the door, you turn on the light, and you walk away, and hopefully they're angry at you by the end of it, you know? So I try to bring a little bit more of that energy, and eventually I switched over to heel full time. And I've been running with heel ever since because it's just, in my opinion, way more fun and gratifying.
That's awesome. I'm glad that it actually came from real life experience that you were like, oh, okay, this doesn't fit me quite right. I gotta make the adjustment.
Yeah, like, and I'm sure I will do a babyface run again in the future, but right now it's definitely a better fit to get under people's skin and get them to start cheering the opponent rather than cheering me.
Okay. So I typically ask everybody, what are some of the biggest highlights of your career thus far? And it doesn't have to be this amazing match that you had. It could be a milestone moment. It could be a fan interaction. It could be even a surreal interaction backstage with a personality that you would have never expected. If you were to look back on your career, what are some of the key points that stand out immediately to you?
So I've been a part of a lot of factions. As soon as I turned heel, I was in a faction called the Ring Loyals. It was me, Covey, Justin, and Benoit. But Justin had to leave and go to Montreal with his studies, so he was short-lived, unfortunately. And me and Benoit, you could always tell that Benoit liked being a face more, and I liked being heel more. So we always butted heads in the actual faction on screen. And when we actually had that feud start blowing up, I think that's still one of my favorite feuds today, is me versus Benoit. I just feels like it really put us both on the paths that we wanted to be on. It's probably my favorite match that I've had, was just like me and him in a regular match. We also have a match as a aerial assault match, and that was a lot of fun too. It's like a point system. You have to hit a move off the top rope to get a point. You need 3 points to be able to pin your opponent. Very complicated, but we were able to get the crowd behind us, and I was very proud that we were like a confusing match, but we were still able to like convey, this is the rules, this is what we're trying to get across. And by the end of it, like, we had people like, that's 3, he got 3, and, like, he got hit 3 top roofs most, he can get the win now, right? And like, it was just so cool to have everybody like all get on the same page, even though it was a complicated match. That was really cool to me. I love everything that I'm doing currently with my 2 guys with DDT, Dudes Doing Things. yeah. We're kind of a comedy heel group.
Okay.
yeah. We've had a match called Braldeny at Alderney, and it was this large, chaotic match. One of the guys has a bubble gun, so there's bubbles everywhere. I broke up a pin with a plunger, like a toilet plunger. The referee in the match was bald, so I slid in and stuck it to his head. So that was also wild. And then I think the most recent was I just did a road trip to Quebec with 3 of the other guys, Jason Boa, Bobby Boyette, and Ryan Schimmel. And we went up to Mystery Wrestling for a seminar. And it was a mystery seminar, so we didn't know who was teaching it until we got there. And turned out that it was going to be Ortiz. So meeting Ortiz and just getting a bunch of knowledge and be like helping out backstage with the show was just so cool. Because I've been to many indie shows in the Maritimes, but like this is the first time where I was like, oh, this is like a really well-known independent show. the way that they do production and everything else was like really cool to see behind the scenes. And just like all in all, I think that was probably one of the times where I've learned the most.
What about moving forward? What are some of your more immediate goals? We don't have to talk long-term, end of career or anything like that, but where would you like to see yourself next, whether that be a new city to travel to, a new company to work for? Like, what do you want to cross off the wrestling bucket list?
So now that I've been to Mystery Wrestling, one of the things that I want to do is actually get on the show of Mystery Wrestling. I think that their comedy style of wrestling really suits what I'm doing with Daniel Wall. Because, like, Daniel Wall is it's so weird and complicated. I don't know why I chose my character, because, like, he's supposed to be this, like, weird madman time traveler. And, like, he keeps coming back into promos being like, oh, yeah, I was just talking to, like, Caesar and, convinced him to take over Rome and stuff like that. It was just like, what? Like, what are you talking about? So having this, like, weird out there character, I think would fit really well with the style that Mystery has. So I would love to do that. I've wrestled in every maritime province except for Newfoundland. So okay. Newfoundland is probably huge on my bucket list right now. And then to win a title. So win a title would be high on that list because I have yet to get any gold, but I would very much like to do that.
Before I ask the next question, I do want to just kind of ask that I'm hearing a lot of creativity, like aerial assault. Never heard of anything like that, which is surprising. You think you've seen and heard of it all at this point,
right?
Crazy. Breaking up pinfalls with a plunger, a time traveling character.
Yeah.
Have you always felt this like creative energy inside of you that you just wanted to do something outside the box or surprise people or create a moment that maybe isn't easily replicated?
Yeah. So when I had the falling out back in the day with wrestling and kind of stopped with wrestling, I kind of moved to I started working for a theater, and I start working for theater companies, and I start doing more stuff in like on stage instead of in ring. And it really kind of made me draw the connection of like wrestling is theater. As much as it is a sport, as much as it is contact and like violence, it is a type of theater. So I want to push the boundaries a little bit. Like I understand wrestling is theater to the point of like, but you don't want to make it overcomplicated because you only have like a 3-hour show. You have to get your character across, and everybody's going to like make those snap judgments of your character. But I feel like wrestling is evolving to a point where if you even go see an independent show, the audience is going to want more than just basic characteristics. So I'm trying to throw out more complicated things and seeing if anybody bites onto it. And if I really want a thing where like Daniel Wall is going to have all this lore and time traveling and all this other things. And if anybody deep dives into Daniel's lore, then they might get more out of it than just the people that randomly show up to a show, right? So I'm trying to give something to the hardcore fans, but also the casual fans.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
It really falls in line with, I've always classified wrestling as almost like a physical improv, right?
Yeah.
It has a structure, but it has freedom to explore and to create and do your own thing.
I fully agree.
Anyway, back to what I was going to ask you, and that was wrestling interview cliche 101. Who is the dream opponent? If you could wave a magic wand and get in the ring with anybody who is lacing their boots up today, who would it be?
Well, that's such a good question.
Gotta expect it.
I do have to expect it. I don't think I have a really good answer, but I think right now the people I want to mix it up with the most are the other like comedian wrestlers, because I think they're the ones that are going to get the most out of me, and I think that's who like eventually I want to do more serious wrestling. But right now, if I could fight like Simon Miller or a Sorrel from Mystery Wrestling, Uno from Mystery Wrestling, like any of those guys, I think that they would really up my game when it comes to what I'm doing right now, which is something with like a weird time traveling gimmick. I can go do serious wrestling as a serious wrestling guy, but I'm a time traveler, so I can always come back to this gimmick whenever I want and just be like, oh, time traveling. Right? So I can, I guess two other like larger names would be like Santina Morella or
Top of the comedy wrestlers right there.
right now, those guys both, whenever I see them, I'm like, those guys I kind of study because I'm like, their movements make people laugh. Their promos make people laugh. Just the random things they do to make people break. Sami Zayn is another one of those guys who I'm like, he can either be an ultimate babyface, he can be a like just the worst kind of heel, make you not hate, but like someone that you love to hate. Back when he was doing like WrestleMania 38 against Johnny Knoxville and the Jackass guys, like all that stuff, I was like, that was a fantastic match. He was this not even like really awful bad guy. He was so fun to watch get beat up and have those interactions with. And then to watch him go into like the story with the bloodline where it's more serious, but he's still making people laugh. And now today where I'm just like, get a world championship, Sammy. Like, I am so behind you. I love that. And I would love to fight Sami Zayn. He's another guy who I think I would learn a lot from.
So I'm going to try putting you on the spot here for a minute.
Uh-oh.
There is a little bit of a stigma with comedy wrestlers that they're not taken as seriously.
Yep.
And I think Sami Zayn is a perfect example because you see some of the stuff like the comedy spots he was doing with the Bloodline and then the matches he would have with Gunther.
Yep.
Can you tell me how you would respond to somebody who was maybe a little bit more critical of comedy wrestling, but speaking to the versatility that's necessary to not only do good comedy, but do good wrestling at the same time?
At the same time. Yeah. So, like, it is important that wrestling is safe. It has rules to it, you know, where there is a psychology of wrestling, right? I think Jim Cornette probably said it the best with his analogy with the two guys fighting on the side of the road. If you see a big guy and a small guy fighting on the side of the road, you want to see the small guy kind of like get his and win because he's the underdog. And I feel like with comedy wrestling, everybody underestimates the guys that are doing the comedy wrestling. But I'm like, comedy wrestling is still wrestling, and those wrestling matches can be phenomenally good, still telling a really good story. But everybody takes it less seriously just because it has a couple of hee hee ha ha moments. But if you take out those ha ha moments and just watch the match, if you watch the match on mute, it's still a fantastic match. Right? And I think it's really important to have those kind of collide in a way where wrestling is, you know, for everybody. Everybody has different tastes. Everybody have, like, some people love tragedies and they watch, you know, Romeo and Juliet. And there's not many funny moments in Romeo and Juliet, but like there are also equally as many people on the other side of things going, well, yeah, but if wrestling is theater, then there's always going to be those people going to those shows going, well, I want to be entertained, and the way I like to be entertained is having a good laugh. So I think a wrestling show in general needs variety, where some of the matches have those tragedies in them or those more serious moments, but you can't just have a wrestling match or a wrestling show with just serious moments, or just, you need a good balance.
Yeah. Yeah, a moment of levity is sometimes required in order to allow the highs to be the high and the lows to be the low.
So, exactly.
Sorry, didn't mean to put you on the spot there, but I was just very curious about that.
Yeah, no worries at all.
Let's step out of the ring for a minute.
Sure.
What sort of interests do you have outside of the wrestling world?
So outside of the wrestling world, as you can see back here, I'm a bit of a nerd. I very much like my superheroes, animes, video games. I'm actually working very slowly, mind you, on a video game myself. I think putting together, I think it's just like another art form that I think is misunderstood a lot of the time if you talk to like older generations. They're just like, oh, like your Mario's, you run across the screen and you reach a flag. Ooh. But like, then you play something like The Last of Us and you're like, no, video games is art, right? Like, I very much like my art. And then on top of that, I'm also a metal fabricator. So I also like to build things with metal. Typically, I help with the wrestling ring, but I also do other stuff, of course, as my day job. And eventually, I want to get to the point where I have a blacksmith forge because I think that would be the most fun.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think it's inevitable to mention the fact that we are both wearing comic book t-shirts.
a little bit.
And this was not planned.
Oh, well.
Now, I have to ask you, I'm very obviously also a comic book guy.
Mhm.
Where do you stand? Let's try to anger half of the audience at least.
As a heel, that's what I do.
Where do you stand on the DC versus Marvel debate?
Oh, so when it comes to the movies, I am on Team Marvel. I don't think DC has been doing a very good job with their movies, but they're starting to try to make a comeback.
Okay.
Like the new Superman's coming out in the next couple days. I am kind of excited to see that one, you know? And Marvel's starting to drop the ball when it comes to there's too many multiverse stuff going on where it's now hard to keep track. And unless you're doing a marathon of Marvel movies, it's hard to understand what's going on all the time just to sit down and watch a Marvel movie. But when it comes to comics, I'm kind of right in the middle, honestly. I am very dyslexic, so reading comics is very hard. I typically find people that do readings online or like audiobooks kind of thing. And typically when I find those guys, they do a large variety of comics, whether it's Marvel, DC. Sometimes they do like weird niche ones that I've never really heard of. I'm like, oh, all right. So really it just comes down to, the individual heroes that I like more, but like, I don't know, they're all so good, Like when they really hit, they're just so like Venom is always one of my guys, but so is the Joker, right? And it's just like it's hard to pick. Of course, it's two bad guys. Imagine that. The heel likes bad guys. But like
Venom could be classified as an anti-hero. I mean,
I'll give you that.
Not 100%. Not 100%.
Fair enough. But I think it just like really depends on who's writing the story at the time. Like sometimes you can have awesome Spider-Man comics, and then sometimes you have really weird Spider-Man comics that don't actually make all that much sense, and But when you hit the really good stuff, you're like, well, awesome, right? So I guess it just kind of depends on who's writing the story at the time.
I agree with almost everything that you've said. I would say that when it comes to movies, though, you need to look at the subgenre of animated movies because DC absolutely demolishes in those. I don't know if enough people know about them, but like I think it was called like The Assault on Arkham and Operation Flashpoint. They've had some amazing animated movies where I don't think the Marvel animated ones are as good.
No, I think the one animated Marvel movie was like the Avengers that they had like way back in the day, and that one was pretty good. But then you watch ones that the DC's doing, you're like, oh, but that hits on the next level though. It feels very like, oh, I don't even know. Like the animation flows so good, the storylines hit so well. Like it feels comic booky, and yeah. I'm like, I love it.
I'm just going to leave the comic book discussion at this.
Okay.
I always felt that Marvel writes the better heroes, DC writes the better villains, but I'm generalizing. So don't come at me with individual examples. Okay. All right. So last thing I like to ask everybody, just jumping back into the world of wrestling before sign off, and it might be a little bit more challenging, but if you were able to go back and talk to a younger version of yourself that was debating getting into the wrestling industry, what piece of advice would you give yourself that might aid somebody else who's on the fence today?
If I was to talk to referee Daniel, I would tell him just because there's going to be a point of, you feel like there's a point of separation with the wrestling community, there is other communities with a lot of wrestling. And I actually had a couple of opportunities where I could have moved to a location and had that opportunity, and I decided to stay home. I probably would have told myself to move, get that opportunity somewhere else. I'm really thankful that I got Kaizen. I really like my Kaizen family. I really like the way that we do things. But saying that, I would have really liked to have been in the ring at a younger age. And at that point, probably be in a different spot in my career now.
Okay. All right. So don't hesitate, essentially.
Yeah, basically. Get yours, And if I was to talk to Daniel that is starting this run in his career, a bit of the same advice, don't hesitate. But at the same time, I had a really good conversation with Ortiz when we went down to Montreal, where he was telling me, like, he's in the middle of a change of characters and I'm getting ready for a change of character. And he gave me a bit of confidence, and he's like, no, you know what you're talking about. Like, the things that you're saying are making sense. Trust that you know what you're doing. And I think a couple of years ago, I was kind of like on the fence if I knew what I was doing when I was making things a little more complicated. But I think I would have liked to dive into the complicated a little bit more. So, like, trust yourself. If you've been a wrestling fan for years and years, you might have an insight on some stuff that other people aren't looking at. So, like, just because I have a theater background, maybe I should have jumped into the more complicated storytelling a little earlier.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So before we sign out, can you just let people know once again who you are and where they can follow you online if they want to keep up to date with what you got coming up?
Yeah, I am the dastardly Daniel Wall. I am in Halifax, Nova Scotia, but I wrestle all over the Maritimes and will hopefully expand in the future. My next show is in August 2nd and August 3rd, because we are also, I don't know if this is announced yet, but I think it should be soon. We are also wrestling on top of the McDonald Bridge in Halifax.
Oh.
Yeah, there is a bridge walk that we do every year for a bunch of charities. And typically they have a bunch of performers, and this year we actually get to perform on top of the McDonald Bridge, which is one of the two main bridges of Halifax.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So very excited for that. You can catch me at Daniel Wall or Getting Over the Wall. Little play on wrestling terms there. On YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. I think that's it. Every now and then I do some streaming on YouTube, but for the most part, I'm just wrestling.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Anytime. This was a blast. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Independent Wrestling Profiles. Please help out the show if you can with a like, subscription, or review. We'll see you next time.